Hi friends, what is up? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Bridget. I make bookish content here on YouTube. I don't know about you, but I've been super motivated to read lately. We're halfway through February and I've already read 12 books, which is so much more than I normally read. Let's talk about them. Before we get into it, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. If you enjoy watching bookish content, then definitely subscribe. The very first book that I read in 2025 was The Traitor Queen by Danielle L. Jensen. This is book number 2 in the Bridge Kingdom series. The cover is beautiful. She's re-releasing with new covers. Stunning. I loved this book. I gave this book 4 stars. This is obviously a continuation of the story. I do think it was a little bit slower, which is why I didn't give it 5 stars. I did give the Bridge Kingdom 5 stars, but even though it was a little slow, I ate this book up. How many times am I going to say that in this video? Probably a lot. Someone stop me. But this is a super fun romantasy series. There's a lot of betrayal and secrets and kingdoms fighting. There's a lot of fighting, I'd say, but not a lot of politics, if that makes sense. There's a lot of fun world building and just overall fantasy things. This was easy to get into, easy to understand, and definitely not an overcomplicated like fantasy series. I read book 2 and now I have book 3 on my shelf to read, and then I think there's 5 total, maybe. 4 stars, really enjoyed it, highly recommend. The next book that I read was Bad Guy by Ruby Dixon. This is a sci-fi romance. I read this on Kindle Unlimited and I gave it 3 stars. If you've read anything else by Ruby Dixon, then you know what you're getting into. It is same vibes, not like same plot, but it's giving the same vibes. Let's say in Ice Planet Barbarians. So if you enjoyed that, I think you would enjoy this one. But if you know nothing about the Ice Planet Barbarians, then maybe just move on and don't think about this one too hard. Next, I read The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. This had been on my TBR shelf for so long. I've been looking forward to reading this one, but just never got myself to actually read it. I'm so glad that I finally read it because I've been thinking about the plot for so long. I rated this a 3.5 stars. It was good. Again, it was kind of slow. This is a fiction with a touch of magical realism, so definitely not like a fantasy, but some magic involved. This book follows the main character who comes back to her apartment after they call it a hen night because it's based in London, I think, but like a bachelorette party. And she comes back home and all of a sudden there's a man in her living room. Come to find out, she has husbands coming down from her attic. So whenever she sends a husband up, he disappears and another man comes down. There are certain things in here that had me on the edge of my seat of like, oh my god, what is going to happen? So there were good things, there were bad things. It definitely was a little slow, very interesting twist and turn that happened in the middle of this one. I will give it that. But this is the type of book that doesn't really have a satisfying ending. If you're looking for a good fun time, a little literary fiction with some magical realism, check it out. Also, I love the cover. This is fun. Next, I listened to The House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie. I listened to this on audiobook on Spotify, so it's available on Spotify if you are interested. But this is a memoir, I think, and it follows Sherry Frankie, the oldest daughter of a mommy blogger, an old mommy vlogger. If you know anything about the 8 Passengers drama, this book is the oldest daughter's like account of like her life and also that drama and everything that went down, and it was so good. I rated this book 5 stars. I know a lot of people talk about not rating memoirs because it's like you're rating their life, but especially for this, I'm rating her narration because Sherry narrates it as well, and also just the flow of the book, how everything was paced. Just the entire book was really well done, so that's definitely what my rating is based on. And if you were ever a mommy blogger YouTube watcher, definitely I recommend checking out this book, giving it a listen at the very least, and it won't disappoint. This was also my first nonfiction of the year, which is very exciting because I'm trying to read more nonfiction. Next is Bull Moon Rising by Ruby Dixon. Again, this is the same author that wrote Ice Planet Barbarians. This was actually her new release. I think it came out towards the end of the year last year. This was fun. This one gives major screw the men, feminism, girls can do what boys can do and girls can do it better vibes. This is definitely a story about underdogs, but also a lot of romance too, and some fun romance. But yeah, this follows the main character who wants to be an artifact guild member, and artifact guild members basically tunnel and like do, what's the word where you're like digging up bones? What's that profession called? Archaeologist. Don't worry guys, Google to the rescue. Basically, she wants to be an archaeologist, but typically women are not archaeologists in this world. And okay, archaeologist is kind of like a very generalized term for the job that she wants to have. She literally digs up magical objects. That is what she wants to do. Women don't typically do that. It was very hard for her to like get into it, and then she ends up forming a team, and it's a team of underdogs, and so it's their story in proving to everyone in the world, the artifact guild, that they can do it and to not be jerks, basically. And then also throw in some romance, because obviously you have to have a teacher in the guild to go into the tunnels, and the teacher is a minotaur. And that is all I'm going to say about that. Moving on. Wait, did I say 3 stars? Next, I finally finished reading Lilac by B.B. Reed. I bought this book in 2020. I started reading it in 2020. I felt very overwhelmed by the content in this book, and I stopped reading it. I actually read this book during a 24-hour reading challenge that I filmed and posted. So if you haven't seen that video, check that out. This book was... I gave this book 1 star. I knew what I was getting into beforehand, and I did it anyway. I overall don't recommend unless you're really into a very lengthy why choose about musicians and like famous people. That's a very specific thing for you to like need to be into. But if you are, you probably would like this. If you're not into that, it's fine. That is all I have to say about this book. And to follow that 1 star, I read the next book, which was a 6 star for me, which basically just means like this is going to be one of my favorite books of the year. It's, I mean, technically a 5 star if you go to Goodreads or Fable, but a 6 star read. I will never stop thinking about this book, and that is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I have seen some mixed reviews on this book, but I loved it. This was exactly what I wanted out of the 3rd book, especially after Iron Flame. I loved that the ending wasn't a massive cliffhanger, but I'm still invested and I still want to know like what happens next. So once there's another book, I will definitely be picking it up. But I feel content. After the way the last 2 books ended, I needed this to be exactly what it was. I did also film a full with spoilers reading vlog of me reading this book. So if you're interested to know my exact thoughts on everything that happens in this book, definitely check that out. But overall, 6 stars. Also, if I didn't mention, and if you somehow don't know, this is book 3 in the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. The first one is Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and now Onyx Storm. And I love her. I'm obsessed. 6 stars. Give me 14 of them right now. And the memes that are coming out about this book, I love it. They're so funny. The next book I read was The Dark Hunter's Touch by Elsa Jade. This is one of those books that I downloaded on like Stuff Your Kindle Day or whatever those are, and I had absolutely no idea what this book was about. I knew nothing of it, but I read it. I think that this one was I think the reason I started reading this one was because it was the end of January. I wanted to get one more book into my month, and it was short, so I thought, why not? Let's give it a try. It wasn't bad, but it's definitely not a book that I would outwardly recommend to people. I gave this one 2 stars. So this book is a romantasy series. I think there's potentially more books in this series, and it follows our main girl who is a magical creature of some sort. I want to say like a fairy situation. Like literally a fairy, like she has wings. She is running away from her kingdom, so she is in the human realm. One of the main reasons that the female main character is running away from the fairy world is because the queen is not allowing anyone to basically feel feelings. So she's taken away that ability from all of the fae creatures and everyone that lives in the fae realm. So the female main character ran away to the human world so that way she could feel feelings. And now the queen is trying to track her down and bring her back. It's the story of her basically being tracked down and brought back. This is romantasy, so it is a bit of like a cat and mouse situation for a little bit there, and then truths come out and things happen. I mean, it's not horrible. It's not a 1-star, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend. The 9th book that I've read so far this year is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena R. Moss. I've had this book on my shelf since 2023 and have been putting it off month after month, not reading it. It is stunning. This is a Bookish box edition of the book, and it is beautiful. Love that. I did end up rating this one 3 stars. It's not my favorite romance book that I've ever read, but it's not bad. If you are specifically looking for a fake dating trope, I would recommend. This was a fun time. Just know that it's definitely slow paced and has a very, very slow burn, which is good, but the rest of the story was also very slow paced. Overall, would recommend if this is the type of thing you're into or you're looking for or are in the mood for, but wouldn't say to go out of your way to read this book. Number 10 is Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. I actually listened to this one on audio as well, so I have had 2 audiobooks so far this year. I listened to Beg, Borrow, or Steal, and I rated this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I had so much fun. I really enjoy all of the books in her series. This one especially hit home for me because it follows the oldest daughter, Emily, and I too am the oldest daughter in my family. So during the story, she just kind of goes through some older daughter things. Obviously, hers are heightened because of the loss and grief and experiences that she's gone through in her life, but there were a lot of things in here that I could relate to. This book is a rivals to lovers romance following Jack and Emily. They're both teachers and they teach in the same elementary school, and Jack ends up moving across the street from her and they are now neighbors. I really enjoyed the small town aspect of this book. I did film myself reading this book and gave a lot of reactions, feelings, emotions, talked about this book a lot more over in a video I posted not too long ago called I Let My Dog Pick What I Read or something of that nature. Yeah, so definitely check that video out if you want to know more about this book. But I really enjoyed it. I would love to visit the small town and I recommend for sure. Number 11 is Shadow and Bone by Leah Bardugo. This book is also a book that my dog picked for me to read, so you can hear a lot more about this in that video. But I did end up giving this a 4 stars. I really enjoyed the storyline, the plot, the pacing. This was so fast-paced. I've read this book so quickly. So especially if you're looking for a good book to help you reach a goal, like reach your reading goal, I would definitely recommend this book. Honestly, it was so fast and so fun. This is the first book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Basically, all of this to say, I enjoyed this book. This is a fantasy series. There's this Netflix series out on it already, and I had a fun time and I would recommend, and I want to continue the series, and those are all of my thoughts. Finally, the latest book that I read and finished was The Throne of Secrets by Carrie Maniscalco. I wanted to love this book so bad. I gave the first book in the series, I think at least a 4 star, probably a 4.5. I really enjoyed Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. But this one, I don't know what happened. I don't know why we did the things that we did in this book. This is a 500-page book. Also, this is a romantasy, in case you don't know. This is about the princes of hell, so like the demons in hell. This book was just a lot slower paced than I wanted it to be. I think the entire 500-page book takes place in like a week, maybe a week and a half, and that is just too slow paced for me. But I did really enjoy the plot and the storyline and the characters and all of that. I just needed it to go faster. So that's why it is still getting a 3 stars. This book follows Prince of Gluttony. The first book follows the Prince of Envy, I think. First book is about envy. This one's about gluttony. And this is a rivals to lovers following the prince and a journalist who writes a scandal sheet about him, a scandal column about him. It was a fun time. If you are looking for a slow-paced romantasy, I would recommend it. I do love the first book in the series, so I'd say if you also enjoyed the first book and you read that one, then continue the series because I'm hopeful about the rest of the books that she releases in the series. And just like that, those are all 12 books that I've read so far this year. Some good, some not so good. If you made it to the end of this video and you still haven't subscribed, what are you doing? subscribe. I also have my Goodreads, Instagram, TikTok, all linked down below if you want to stay more up to date on what I'm doing, what I'm reading, what's going on over here. I do also post most of my videos early on Patreon. If you want early access, definitely check that out. Link down below as well. And if you've made it this far into the video, comment down below a dog emoji for Winston because he's so cute. I love him. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.